Welcome back to positionspecific.com and Coaching Journey 1. Like I start every video, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who's been engaging on all social media platforms. There's been some really good requests this week. And it's great to also see that people are using our content within their own team. So throughout week 9, we're going to run through the Sunderland review, so how the game went. Session 1 will be around finishing the attack. Session 2 will be building the attack. Session 3, small-sided games. And then because we aren't leading into a game this week, we're going to talk over some of the stuff that coaches have requested. So looking at the game review against Sunderland, we were going to be working out of a 4-3-3, moving into a 3-4-3 or into a 2-3-2-3. So people will understand that this is what we like to play out at most weeks, depending on what we're playing against. Now, this is a big test for us because Sunderland are one of the best teams around in the country at this age group. So it was a really, really good game. So looking at the team identity and targets, as you can see here, for the first time this year, we hit all 4 targets. So when you're looking at the main thing that we want to achieve each week is to impose our identity on the opposition, as you can see, we clearly did this. So our defensive transition, we hit 76% of regaining the ball back within 3 passes, 81% on the defensive organisation, so winning the ball back in the top 2/3. And I just want to highlight, when we're talking about winning the ball back in the top 2/3, if we apply good pressure and the team go long and it goes into our defensive third, but we retain possession, then we're still classing that as winning the ball back in the top 2/3. Moving on to the attacking transition, 73%, second pass completion, and then the connection work, 76%. Again, we're still working on some stuff around this. But overall, really good performance from us. So just looking at the performance metrics, and we've just picked out the defensive transition. Obviously, our target's 70% of the time to regain the ball in 3 passes. To the left, you've got our performance wheel. So anybody who's been watching the journey will be familiar with this. Our language is press, find a mark, change the mark, and a clever foul. So these are the things that we work on to try achieve that target. So when we're in training, this is the data. So in the Sunderland game, there were 67 defensive transitions. We managed to regain the ball back within 3 passes 51 times, which is 76%, which shows us that we hit our target. What we do is we like to work the opposite way as well. And this gives us an idea of things that we need to work on. So the opposition retained the ball 16 times. So that means that they kept the ball for more than 3 passes, which is 24% of the time. Again, which isn't much. Then we like to break this down to see how effective the opposition actually really was with that 16 times. So out of the 16 times, the opposition managed to go forward with the ball. So it could be a pass or it could be a dribble 9 times, which is just over 50%. And out of that 9 times, they only got into our defensive third 3 times. And they didn't create any chances. So when you're looking at that, we were really successful in this part of the game. The reason why that we do this is so that we start to get an indicator of how effective the opposition are in certain areas, which then shows us what our training model is going to look like for the next week or the next couple of weeks. So to give you an example, let's say the opposition, out of these 9 times, got in our attacking third 8 times and created 5 chances. Clearly, that's something that we need to work on within the defensive transition. So trying to help our team understand how to stop the opposition from breaking forward when in the defensive transition. Hopefully that makes sense and it gives you a bit of an idea, but that's how we work in all the 4 moments. So starting off with the systems of play. So we were playing a 4-3-3 against a 4-2-3-1. Dynamics changed in midfield, but we matched up really well. You know, this is something that we're really comfortable with. So if you're looking over to the left-hand side with the 2v1 against us forward, with the 1v1s down the side, 3v3 in midfield, and then they're getting the +1 on the defensive line. So this is something that we're training quite a bit. So we're happy with this. We could find the mark and change the mark really quickly. And then we could focus on how we were going to build the attack when in possession. So systems of play, happy with the matchup. So looking at the attacking organisation, we controlled the game. All we did was adjust our defensive midfielder when we were in possession. So looking at this, Sunderland's first press came from their number 9, their centre forward. So if we played out to our number 5, their forward then go and start the first press. So just giving you a scenario here. So we've now switched the play to our other centre-back. And then what Sunderland would do is they would press from the centre. So their second press would come from their cam. And we've come up against this scenario a few times and worked on this. Now, you 4, sometimes if they're quick at sliding and the centre-back sees it or they get the press wrong, then you can find that pass into there and then break the lines and then progress with the ball. What Sunderland did do is their third press came from their deepest midfielder jumping. So if our midfielder wasn't scanning or the pass was wrong, then they'd still win the ball on this second pass, which then meant that they could break on us in a 3v3. If we couldn't find that central pass, then our left back was free, but then this was one of Sunderland's triggers to really go and press the ball. So one of the solutions that we came up with, and you've seen us do this before, we just dropped our number 4 in between or beside the centre-backs to create a 3v2. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, it gives us a 3v2 to try control these 2 players and try to flatten them out. We're not forced to then to play wide, but this distance now from their third press, so the player jumping, is a big distance. So if that player was to go, then that gives us more space to find the 8. And it could be the same on the other side. So the right centre midfielder might jump on, but gives us loads of space for the 10 to play and get on the turn. If that player stayed and they look to press from the wide forwards, then this is a scenario that just frees up our fullback. So then we can get down the sides. And you'll have seen some of our connection work around getting our centre-backs to fix and then find one of the players in the outside channels. Just remember, at any time, if their fullback steps on, we'll just go over the defensive line. But this is why we dropped our 4 in between or down the sides. Not so much to get the first pass, but just to make sure that we won't falling into their second and third press trap. And hopefully that makes sense. So looking at defensive organisation, I thought we forced the play and pressed really well. This was in play or from a dead ball from the keeper. The 9 set the scene and focused more on the right centre-back, which left their left centre-back to be free to play. Once we forced that, the 7 would then change the mark. But what we said was, if they do find their fullback, so either through a link pass or direct, then our second change the mark would come from the 8. So we'd keep the number 2 in here. So we'd keep the fullback in here. And you've seen us work on this. And as this happens, our 9 then changes the mark onto this side to try keep the opposition locked in. But it worked really well. What Sunderland tended to do was try to play through the midfield, and we sort of nicked the ball a lot in here. Every now and again, they did get the link pass in, and this is the picture that we looked at. But also, if we don't want to change them out from midfield, then the 7's just got to recover with a sprint. But we're trying to keep this 4 together, knowing that Sunderland had a real threat going forward. But overall, worked really well and caused Sunderland a lot of problems. And this falls into our performance problem. Now, when I say performance problem, we actually dealt with this, but this is something that if you've been watching our journey so far, you'll see that this is a problem that we've had to deal with over the past 2 or 3 weeks. Now, Sunderland had a big 9, really good player, national player. So we knew that this could be something that Sunderland would try to exploit. They would go long from the centre-back or from the keeper. And when they did that, the cam would then like drop in and spin and try to join in. And then the 7s, 11s would join in as well. And anybody who's been watching the journal will understand that we've been doing quite a bit of work on this. So what we did was we allowed the 4 to go and get tight still, just in case the cam started to overload this area, because we don't want them to get control of the ball. We just went 1 in front, 1 behind, and then just tucked in our 2 fullbacks. So when they did go long, we got first contact on everything. The message to the midfield was anything that goes long, just instantly turning and getting ready for the 2nds and 3rds. But again, overall, really, really good. So we high pressed and we caused them problems. And then when they went long, we got first and second contact on the ball, which then allowed us to get back into our attacking organisation when we secured them 2 to 3 passes. So on to week 9, 3 sessions as normal. Session 1, finishing the attack. We're starting with a little transition practice. Session 2, building the attack. We're going to be working on 3 patterns and then going to a little game. And then session 3 is just going to be small-sided games, but with a high intensity. And then because we haven't got a game that we're building up to, we had a look at some of the coaches' requests and we decided to pick out building the attack when playing in a 3-5-2 against a 4-3-3. So we started session 1 off with a transition game. Anybody who's been following the journey will know this is one of our go-to practices. We can just draw out what we want from this drill, whether it's in possession or out possession, or whether it's in the transition. So it's one of our go-to practices. The players are good at it, and we get a lot out of it every time that we do it. So just to give you an example, you've got a 7v7 in the first game. The team in possession, all they're trying to do is fill the 4 areas and move the ball around at high speeds. It's up to you on what rewards you give them. So we'd be looking at maybe 10, 15 passes for a point. It might be less, just depending on what you want to get from it. The team out of possession are looking to hunt the ball down, win the ball, and then maintain possession. What we then do is move on to the second game where we'll start to work overloads. So an 8v6 for either team and then back into a 7v7. So we do 4 games in total, 2 at 7v7 and then 2 at 8v6. Some of the points that you want to be looking at when you win it is available. Is the 3 players available? Can they progress the ball out of that area and then start to build? So you're definitely looking to try get that 2+ passes to get control. So looking at practice 2 then, so movements beyond to finish on goal. So as you can see, all the practice detail are here. I won't talk through that, but we're looking at the practice outcomes: scan, move, receive, release. We're looking at quick movements beyond. When we're looking at the receiving skills, It's a lot of it's going to be in the air. And then we're really looking at pass detail to make sure that we don't break the stride of the attacker. So I'll just run through it with you now. So in this scenario here, so the player takes a touch out of the feet. So it's like an open touch in a game. And then we're looking at a little movement below to then go beyond. And we're looking at that pass. So we say try aim for the mannequin, but as flat as you can, for then the forward to run on and score. The 2 then goes where the 5 was. 5 receives the ball, joins the back of the other group. And then the same thing works down the opposite side. So now we're just going to look at a second movement. So now the player is going to run alongside, so we call it beside, and then they're going to go beyond. And they can either go behind the second mannequin or just move in between. So the player who takes an open touch can play the ball down the side of the centre back or play it between. Every time they're looking to receive this, we're looking for them to finish within 3 seconds. Not touches, seconds. Because the amount of times that you get a player who takes a bad touch, who then could readjust, but doesn't because they're limited to 2 touches. So we're saying to them, can you finish within 3 seconds? So even if you take a bad first touch, can you fix it on your second and get your shot off? Again, working the opposite way. What we also did before we sort of moved through the movements, we just moved the groups to the opposite side. So they were working from both sides and working off both feet. So this is the third one. I'll just rewind that slightly. So the player takes an open touch again. The 9 looks like he's supporting, hits the second player who sets the 9, and then we look to combine. So if you look in here, play in, and then you're looking at that little movement where you go below, and then you go around the outside of the mannequin. So 3 different movements to win the space beyond. So below and beyond, beside and beyond, and then below with a little connection pass, and then up and round and finish. And then we're looking at a first time finish if we can there. So we're really concentrating on the detail of pass to break the line for a first time finish. So session 2, building the attack. All the details are filled in at the side. I won't run through that again. I'll just run through the video. So what we did is we started with an unopposed practice and just working through patterns. So the reds are the mannequins. They're not the greatest mannequins, to be fair. We just stuck them together. But what we did is everything was unopposed in this. So we started with the DM, and the DM passed the ball back to the keeper. So in this scenario here, the keeper plays to the centre back, and then the centre back will play to the full back. And every time we do a pattern, we work one side and then we come out the other side. So if anybody's been watching the journey, you'll understand that we try to create a strong and a weak side on the first pass. So in this pattern here, goes into the centre back. The centre back makes the forward run to either affect the 9 or the 7, which then should allow space for the keeper to get it and switch it. If they don't track him, the centre back will get it. Ball goes in, and then we're looking to switch the play. And on this one, we're looking at the full back low, and then you've got your link pass. Once we do that, we just break the halfway line with the movements. And then we move on to, but the opposite way. So the ball goes down there, centre forward steps in, and we look to switch the play. And then you're looking at that link pass. making sure when you do this that all the movements are right, even when the ball's on opposite side. So what's the forward doing? What's your centre-backs doing? What's the right-back doing? So what we say to these is usually we get our right centre-back to step onto the mannequin. Right-back comes on the inside of the mannequin. Left-back, make sure that, left centre-back can support from behind the ball. Just making sure that everybody gets into good habits, even though it's unopposed. Now on to pattern 2. So starting from the DM again, this time we get the keeper to play the longer pass into the fullback. So now we're creating that strong side. We'll play it back. But this time to switch the play, we're using the holding midfielder. And then using one of the rotations to find the free player to progress. Same thing, but working down the opposite side. Longer pass, support below. Use a holding midfielder to switch the play. And then you're looking at the rotation. And the centre-back has got a choice of where they want to play. Now on to pattern 3. And the last one. So this time, the left centre-back plays into the cam, who then releases the ball back. So another way of trying to create that strong side. And then we look to get the ball across the pitch quickly. And then we use rotation too. So the fullback coming inside. And then the same thing down the opposite side. Now, what you could do if you have time, and if you run through the patterns really quick, what you could do is maybe have 2 or 3 minutes where you just allow the team to play out any way that they want by using one of the 3 patterns. So once a team are quite slick and move through the patterns really quick with good detail, we'll try to run through the patterns as fast as possible and then give them that free play at the end. But still trying to focus on what the patterns look like, but without us guiding them. Then we just moved into a small-sided game, high intensity, with just simple conditions with a halfway line in. So normal game rules, 1 point for scoring a goal, bonus point if you can get your team across the halfway line, apart from the goalkeeper. So really encouraging the team to squeeze on and have a high line. The offside rule counts. So if they do even play with a high line out of possession and they just play it over the top, then they're offside. Just encouraging the team to focus on all the 4 moments that we talk about. So if we win it, do we retain or do we keep? And then this one here, we added a bonus point at 10 passes as well, just because we wanted the team to get hold of the ball. So if they decided to keep it, can they keep the ball, get themselves 10 points, then look to score? It's a real simple, small-sided game, but it brings out everything that we want in our performance model. So session 3, because we didn't have a game at the weekend, this is what we decided to go with. So game 1 was 4 games of 3 minutes with 2 minutes rest. And it's a real high intensity practice. So coaches in and around the practice. So player balls around the outside. No set system. So players can go anywhere. But the idea behind it is that the players play to the max intensity. So an example, if I get the ball and I play it into somebody, can I win the back of my marker with a sprint? If I show for the ball and the defender gets close to me, can I spin and get in beyond them? but with a sprint. And then out of possession, you're finding the mark quickly and being really aggressive with your play. And then we just have the ball thrown in as fast as possible. And they've got a 3-second rule to get the next ball in. But they should be working at max intensity for 3 minutes. Now, by you get to game 3 or 4, the players should be really fatigued and tired. But the idea is that we're trying to replicate the worst part of the game or the hardest part of any match to see if we can really concentrate when things are going wrong or when we're tired in a game. So that was game 1. Game 2, we then moved into 2 5-minute games. And in this scenario here, so you've got the Blues. They start with a 2-0 lead, but are down by 2 men. So they've got to hold on for 5 minutes. And there's a forfeit for the losing team, just a little run that we'd set up on the side of the pitch. So again, really stressing out the players. So these are trying to move at high speeds and find ways of getting into the box and scoring. And these just need to find a way of hanging on, but seeing an opportunity to maybe break and score. Losing team forfeit. After 5 minutes, we then flip the teams over and then work the other way. Again, supply footballs around the side. Try to get the balls in as quick as possible. Obviously, the team who are down by 2 are trying to waste time, but it's good to see because it's part of the game management. But really stressing them players out again, especially after game 1, have been fatigued. Now they've got to work out how to defend the goal in a 2-0 lead with 2 men less. But also the opposition have got to find a way of breaking them down. And then into game 3, we just went back to equal numbers and just played a normal game. We did add a little condition in again, where if your whole team get across the halfway line and you score, it's a bonus point. But this was just good to see how the players would play after being fatigued from the first 2 games. But really, really good night of training. The players after send us their score of what they felt it was physically. Most players were 9 and 10 in this practice, which we rarely go to because we're building into a game, but we just felt that this would be good because we didn't have a match at the weekend. But just so you know, the focus was all about really stressing the players and trying to replicate the worst part of a match. And usually a team might have to go through 10 minutes of 90 minutes where, it's really, really tough for them. So just a little reminder about some of the books that we've got out. To the right-hand side, you've got The Poacher and The Connecting Coaches, which are free books. So if you've yet to do that, make sure that you get on the website and download them. If you haven't yet, leave some comments on the website around the books. We've had some really good feedback. But don't forget that they're free, so jump on there and download them. We've got the defensive midfielders book, In Possession and Out of Possession, something that was requested from you coaches. Again, we've had a really, really good response. There is a fee, but it's only $3.99. So make sure you jump on there and purchase the books as well. We've had some really, really good feedback from coaches and players. We've had players saying that their game understanding after reading the books has helped them as a player, which is really good. And again, the fee's not much. And the reason why we keep it that is because we're not here to make mass money. We're just here to try cover costs for running the website. As you can see, 99% of our stuff is free content. Also, if you leave a comment below and put hashtag coaching journey in, we'll throw you into a free draw every week where we'll be sending out any books which you need to purchase. Okay, on to the coach's request. So this is the first time that we've done this, but it's something that we've wanted to do for a while now. And we've been thinking about maybe setting up a separate video vlog around this type of thing. But we're just trying to get coaches engaged and sort of letting us know what they want to see. If this is something that you want to see in the future, then, we can get one of our coaches on to helping you guys out with certain requests. But because we haven't got a game, we thought we'd drop this in and see what it looks like and if it's something that you like. So the request that we picked out was around building the attack. The coach plays in a 1-3-5-2 system, and he wanted to get some ideas of how to get out against a 4-3-3. Again, this is just our ideas. You know, there's no right or wrong, and I'm pretty sure there'll be plenty of coaches out there which will have loads of different variations. All we're doing is just showing you a couple of things that we would do. So variation 1, and we're the Blues to the left-hand side playing against the Reds. The first thing that we would try to do is just play through the pressure with our 3 centre-backs. You know, not complicating it, just seeing if we can play through. But to do this, your centre-backs and your GK need to be brave and they need to understand how to win the back of their marker. But if we can do this and break the back of these, we can keep more players higher up the pitch for the second phase if we do break that forward line. So can these go and pin them? And can we just get out in a 4v3? So to give you an example, the GK will play into the centre-back. The centre-back will release the ball back in one touch on an angle and then just win the back of the 9. Now, usually at this distance, the 9 will usually jump and go and press the keeper, which leaves the centre-back to get out. You can use a third man, which I'll show you in a little practice a bit later. But this is what we're talking about, just playing through the pressure. And then you're looking at your centre-back to get on the turn and then get out. So same picture as well. So if they play to the left centre-back, ball goes in, release it back to the keeper, and then win the back of the 7. Remember as well, if the 7 doesn't go and press and stays with the centre-back, the keeper's then got time on the ball to then have a look at another selection. Might have to be aware of somebody else jump pressing, depending on what the opposition do. But that's what we're talking about when we're talking about playing through the pressure. So just a little practice idea and something that we'd work on. And we do this with 2 centre-backs and our 4. So you've got the area here, so the blue area. We've introduced a midfielder. This could be any of the midfielders, just to show you that if they can't find the direct pass, they'll use a link pass. So the first pass, the keeper will play into the centre-back, get the ball back. And what you're saying to the Reds here is they're shadow defending. What they'll do is they'll track the centre-back, so they'll press the first ball, and they must press the second ball. And then your GK will either play to the centre-back if they're at the angle right, or they'll play it into the midfielder who'll play the third pass into the centre-back or travel with the ball out the area. And then you just do the same thing with a practice. So they'd recover back, then you play to the left centre-back and the 7 would press and then press again. And you play the 1 off the back and they just travel out and seeing if they can find that third player as well with a link pass. And then you could finish the practice with just a little 4v3 practice. And if the Reds win it, they go and score on a goal. So just a little practice idea to help the coach work on playing through the pressure. Variation 2. So we're going to try create a 5v3 to break the first line. And how we do that, we get our centre-back and right centre-back to play in between the wide forward and the 9. So can they occupy 2 players? If, let's say, the 9 drifts too far that way, you can get straight out on the centre-back. If he drifts too far this way, you can play straight in. We're asking our wing-back to drop all the way down the side. So if you're looking at a 4-3-3, they'll tend to jump press with the full-back. But if it's this distance, it's a long way for them to go. And then we're just asking our left wing-back to push right on. left forward to go in between, right forward to come to the side, and then the midfielders just to take them away. And they could play any pass here, any pass that you want. But what you are trying to do, you're trying to create a strong side. So in this scenario here, we've played to the left centre-back. Again, if the 7 presses, you might be able to get out here. If the 9 goes too far, you can go into right centre-back. If they slide all across, we're into the keeper and out the other way. Just to give you an example, again, it could play any pass depending on what the Reds are doing. And then just a variation that your centre-back could come in and your wing-back could push back out. And then you can get out on the other side. So there's one little idea for you. Now, we'd probably do this if we had just started with a team and we wanted to give our team a +2 to get out. That way, you know, there's less risk. But also, if we lose possession, we've always got 2 to 3 bodies in front of the goal to help defend. And then variation 3. We're going to go with a 5v4 to break the first line, but the defensive midfielder now comes in. Now, what we're saying is if we can pull this 10 away, then we can try break a line of 4, which then gives us a better opportunity when we move into the second phase. Same scenario, ball comes in. We're looking to create a strong side and a weak side, get the ball out, and then when we're playing with a back 4, you'll see some of the connection work that we work on, but these are the pictures that you might see. Now, I know this is your right centre-back, so this could be something that you'd have to plan ahead. So you might have a full-back playing right centre-back, so they'd be natural with this. And you might not do this down the other side. That might be just set up on one side. But again, it's just another variation of getting out. And if you get out in this scenario, you're taking 4 out the game. Hopefully that gives you a couple of ideas and all the other coaches who have tuned in. It's not a really, we haven't spent loads of time on it, but again, hopefully it will help you look to get out against a 4-3-3 when playing a 3-5-2. So what's coming next week? So we've left that slot open for coaches' requests again. Anything that you want to see. So we'll start off with that, seeing we haven't got a game to review. And then we've got the 3 sessions. We're unsure on what we're going to go after for this week. So at the moment, we're just leaving it as in possession, 11v11 and out of possession. And then we'll be prepping for a game against Wigan Athletic. So we'll be moving back into a regular week. Just want to say thank you again for listening to the video. Hopefully you've took something from it again. Don't forget to press that like button and subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss these videos. See you next week.